This is Why Am I a Mets Fan? A podcast hosted by Samantha Croston and Ashley Wenskoski.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into another edition of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. That's Ashley Wenskoski. I'm Samantha Croston. We are two Syracuse-based sports reporters, and we have this Mets podcast. Thanks so much, as always, for joining us. Should have said this sometime about a month ago, but just so you all know, we just recently eclipsed our 1 year mark of having this podcast. We had to just do it.
We're at like 13 months now, a little delayed, but that kind of tracks.
It's totally delayed, and that's just kind of how we operate, as you see. This sports department is nothing if not fashionably late, y'all.
It's a lifestyle.
It is absolutely a lifestyle. But yeah, we started last May when the Mets sucked, which Ashley reminded me of today.
Yeah.
And look at where the Mets and this podcast are now.
I know. We were reminiscing on today how when we started this, again, last May, it was right in the middle of Jorge Lopez, the glove throwing. It was rock bottom. Nobody in the ballpark. If you know, you know. So the Mets have turned it around, and we have almost 10,000 of you in a year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching and listening, as always.
Yeah, absolutely. We have been off for a little while. We've been taking a break from these jobs. We've been out of office.
It's an out-of-office summer.
It's an out-of-office summer. We decided it is okay to have a work-life balance. Don't let anybody tell you differently. But I wanted to tell you guys this because I thought it was cool. This past week, we were both at concerts, both in New York.
We were around town. We were lurking.
Lurking. That sounds suspicious. I wasn't lurking.
Not suspiciously.
I was at a Post Malone and Jelly Roll concert at Citi Field. Have never been to Citi Field before for a concert. As you can imagine, it was absolutely electric. I really didn't even know Post Malone was that big. Like, I am telling you, it was wall to wall, like sellout.
Syracuse, New York native, I should add, by the way, Post Malone.
Isn't that so cool?
Yeah.
And I have to say, Post Malone was okay. Jelly Roll blew me away. Don't know how many Jelly Roll or Post Malone fans you guys have on here, or we have on here. Post Malone was like legitimately wasted. That is not a joke.
Oh, that's not surprising.
He had, I'm not kidding, he probably had some guy, like a part of the crew, bring him out, somewhere in between, I'd say 10 and 13 drinks.
Oh my God.
While he was performing.
A crisp 10 to 13.
And he smokes.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you even still standing up?
That is, okay, wait, but I have never been to a concert at Citi Field, but I always see like their summer concert series. Honestly, smart when the Mets are out of town, right? Get people there.
Totally.
How was the experience? Like, were you literally walking on the field? Was there a tarp? What was the situation?
So they did have people who were on the field for sure. I do believe there was a tarp. All of the monitors monitors is not the right word, I guess, but like the TV screens that they have were being utilized for all sorts of reasons, but essentially it was just different angles of the performers. And I was wondering the entire time, I have no idea, but I have to find out, was the SNY director directing those cameras? Because it truly looked like his normal style. There were like a couple of those like weird split screens. You know what I'm talking about?
But he probably had to be in Colorado.
No, you're right. So I guess it couldn't have been him, but it was somebody with his same style.
Maybe
it was
it's
really
one of
weird.
His prodigies.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, it has to be someone in the family because it was like really. I'm like, this is like way too beautifully shot. So I'd like to know who was behind that.
Wow.
I actually tweeted at the Mets, or I think it was at Citi Field, and I said, "Can you guys please put the Mets game on the Jumbotron?"
Would have been so fun.
Nobody responded, and I understand why. But a lot of people who like had Mets hats on and things like that. So that was like, I felt like very at home.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm really going to that concert if it's at Yankee Stadium, just because it just doesn't feel right.
Right. I feel like I would feel strange to be in Citi Field for a reason other than a baseball game. I feel like it would take me a minute. But sometimes those venues, like, you can't even really tell because it's like there's a stage and it just looks so different,
And I will say, this is smart. They didn't have anyone in those really comfortable high-end seats right behind home plate. Smart. It really was. And everything about Citi Field is, but I'm going to say it. I think that most people, like even if you're a Yankees fan, you know that Citi Field is a nicer venue. That's not news to anybody. It's just the truth.
I feel like a lot of people do agree with that. Like Yankee Stadium, obviously the old one had the history and all that and that whole 9 yards, but I feel like you can't dispute the fact that Citi Field is a very nice venue for baseball and other entertainment, things.
I think it's one of the best ballparks in the country. And they had everybody working like all floors. I mean, like everything was open. It was really like, I have to say, it was like
Wait, like the little stores were open?
Not the store. Like you couldn't buy like Mets merch merch, but I just mean like from the drinks and whatever, you know, like all of the different food options. Like I feel like it was still like fully staffed, which makes sense because obviously it's just the people who normally work for Citi Field. Like it was like Mets employees, you know?
So did you
just
literally still walk in like through the rotunda? Like I'm very interested in this.
No,
like,
you literally.
It seems like you were going to a Mets game and then it's just a concert.
No, you did. You walked through the rotunda. There were people on every floor. Like even the elevators, you can go up and down, which was smart because like when we were actually on like I had like 100 level seating. I have to say it was like great seats down like the first base line, which I don't normally sit there because my dad likes sitting on the third base side. But I have to sit there more often because it was honestly a really cool spot.
Interesting.
But yeah, like I would like go up to like the fourth or the fifth floor if I wanted to pee because I was like I just know that I feel like there's gonna be way too many people on the first floor.
Smart.
So just keep that all in mind.
Smart.
Where were you at?
I was at Metlife on Thursday night for the first weekend show in New York. He did 3 shows at Metlife, all sold out, all weekend long.
That's crazy.
I was so happy to be at the first one. I feel like there's something a little more magical about that.
Agree.
Like he hadn't played New York in like 5 years. It was a whole thing. So really cool. Playboy Cardi opened for him. Missed that. We had great timing. I went with my best friend from high school for some context. We were like really big weekend fans in high school. So this was like one of those long time coming things. Like you got to finally do it. We've like loved him for like 10 years. So I had to just bite the bullet and go. But honestly, Metlife, I had been to a few Metlife concerts when I was younger. Really great concert experience.
It really,
there.
yeah, it has
I mean,
to be.
Beautiful. It's like sold out. There's like, I don't know, what is it, 70, 80,000 people. Like it is, we had really good seats too. Honestly, like forked over a pretty penny for those seats, but it was worth it. We were like so close to this, not floor, but like the closest floor seats to the stage that were not the floor, or the closest seats that were not the floor. It was a real delight. And we took the train, which is like $2 each way, gets you get off right there. Like really a nice experience.
Question of the week, because I'm just curious what you guys think about this. Would you prefer the seats closest to the floor without actually being on the floor, or would you prefer to be like on the floor in the mosh pit? Because when you said you had those seats, which is pretty much what I had too, in my mind, there's nothing better than that. I
agree.
am at 27 years old, going on like 100. I am not interested in sweating my ass off around a bunch of 18-year-olds just for Post Malone to sweat on me or throw a beer into the crowd, which he did like 6 times.
Oh my God.
I am all set. Like I am so happy.
I'd be traumatized if they threw a beer on me. That would ruin my night.
No, like
honestly, I am just like that.
Wait, I literally was thinking, it would ruin your night.
It would be curtains for me.
It would absolutely. Show is over. But I was thinking about that. He like threw a full beer, and all I'm thinking in my head is some girl is like crying right now because her hair is ruined and she had a blowout going into the night.
Yeah. I would not cry. I'm not a crier, but I would not be happy. I would be silently very mad. No, I totally agree that the seats right above the floor are the best. Me and my friend who were at the concert were also talking about that because not to mention, like, I am short. I am 5'3", okay, on a good day, which I feel like people are surprised to find out sometimes. I'm not seeing on that floor unless you bring me a chair and maybe some binoculars. So I'm going to need the extra elevation.
And her best friend, who she went with, is like 5'11".
Oh my God,
or
she's
taller.
So I think she's 6 foot or 6'1". She's like a Division I track athlete. Like, it's really yin and yang. You know what I mean?
The whole nine.
Yeah.
The whole nine. Should we talk about the Mets?
We should talk about the Mets.
Okay. Wait, everyone's like just going like this, scrolling through the first 10 minutes.
So they can skip it.
Put in the first 10 minutes. This is not about baseball, so people know they can skip. Okay, so let's talk about the Mets. That's what we're here to do. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Road to 10K begins right now.
Right now.
Let's start with the Rockies. The Mets complete the season sweep. They won on Friday. They won on Saturday. They won on Sunday. And particularly Saturday and Sunday, you are talking about a resounding, exciting Mets win.
Yeah, the Mets went out to the West Coast last week. We will touch on the Dodgers in a minute, but we're going with the most recent thing, which is completing the season sweep of the Rockies. And I said that I really wanted nothing less. Honestly, I'm so happy. The Mets made me really happy this weekend. I was not interested in losing even one game out of 6 to the Colorado Rockies, who are one of the worst teams. They're going for the White Sox record last year, one of the worst teams in baseball history. So it was a really good 3 games. Honestly, I liked Friday's win a lot because Kodai Senga looked so good. 6 innings, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts. And it was one of just 2 games this season that the Mets came back and won the game after it was a come-from-behind win. They felt they were in a deficit. How is that even possible? 2 games, it's June.
That doesn't make sense. I feel like the Mets had to do that like every game last season.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Every game felt like a come-from-behind win. And I have to say, honestly, emotionally and mentally, I felt better this season.
Yeah.
than I did last season. I feel a little bit calmer.
The anxiety level, yeah.
The anxiety level is absolutely down. That's crazy. Yeah, I have to say, Senga, I mean, I think a lot of us knew to expect that he would have a good return, but I don't think anybody would have told you that they expected him to be this good.
No, we have a stat in here. We're going to talk about the rotation again, but he has a 1.59 ERA. We said it last week. It's the best in the NL by a significant margin. Skeens is second at 2.05, Yamamoto third at 2.39. Like, Kodai Senga has been really, really good.
Freaking all-star. I mean, the guy is insane.
Yeah.
The Mets, with those 3 wins, are now 42-24 on the year. They're on pace for over 90 wins, and they have turned a 3-game deficit into a 4.5-game division lead over the Phillies in the span of 2 crisp weeks. How about that?
The Mets lost that first place spot, and they said, I don't know about that. I don't think so.
My heart broke a little when that happened.
Yeah, I didn't like it. The Phillies have fallen off an absolute cliff lately, by the way. They're really trying to help us out in Philadelphia, which I appreciate. They've lost 5 straight. They have won 1 game of their last 10. I mean, that is off a cliff.
Wait, directly after this, I am going to go start watching Philly Sports Talk Radio.
Oh, it's a crash out.
I gotta go.
I've seen glimpses.
I gotta run.
I gotta go. Gotta bless. They're dealing with some injury stuff. Bryce Harper's like half hurt. A couple of their players are half hurt, but it has been not a pretty 10 days in Philadelphia. And then the NL East is kind of in upheaval because the Braves, everybody sort of thought the Braves sucking to begin the year was like a fluke. The Braves are 14 games back, and the Nationals have passed them. Like, if you are an Atlanta Braves fan, it is not only time to get on your horse to start your engine. Like, the time has passed. Like, I don't know if the engine is starting.
It may not.
The car is stalling. The battery's dead.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. I feel like it's weird to think about an NL East where the Braves aren't kind of breathing down your neck.
I know.
They are nowhere to be found.
Nowhere to be found.
On the next train.
I know we could eat these words in August if the Braves get hot, maybe, but 14 games back. Like, this is not a 7 games back. You win a few, all of a sudden you're in the wild card race. 14 games. This is really shaping up to be like a 2-horse NL East race between the Mets and the Phillies. And honestly, I could eat these words too, but the Phillies don't really bother me that much.
They don't scare me, and I'm comfortable with that. I agree. And I mean, 14 games back, that's not like, this is not a molehill. That's like Mount Everest. Like, you're climbing at that point.
Yeah.
Not to say that crazier things haven't happened, but wow, to be at that point in June, I don't know. I don't know about it.
You got the ropes out, like the picks, like you are rock climbing.
What do you even do at that point? What a disaster class.
Disaster class.
Anyway, all that to say, the Mets are rocking. 2-horse race is a real possibility.
Yeah.
And it's high time that we talk about one of the guys who's been making this magic happen. That is Pete Alonso. He was named the NL Player of the Week today. He is really, I mean, there's a few stats here, but I'll just point out one that I think is the big one. He had 5 home runs and 15 RBIs in 1 week.
15 RBI in a week. He was 12 for 30. He's hitting 400. Like, that is, it's high time we talk about Pete. He had the 2 home runs in Sunday's win, the 13-5 win over the Rockies. You just I was watching Sunday's win, but working as we normally do. You almost tune out for a second. It's like, oh, Alonso just hit another one. Of course he did. His second home run, which is a big deal, his second home run of the day on Sunday, moved ahead of David Wright for second most homers in franchise history with 243. Darryl Strawberry is first with 252, so that's only 9-10 away. He'll more than likely pass Strawberry
next week.
Literally next week, this year too, and become the Mets' all-time home run leader. That is, I don't even think people are talking about this enough. David Wright played significantly more years than Pete Alonso did to get to that point. Same with Darryl Strawberry on the Mets. It's just, this is crazy. I feel like what he's been able to achieve in really the first half of his career.
Can I say something? No matter what happens after this year, I'm so happy that he was able to be here for this year to achieve that.
Yeah.
It to me felt like it was only a matter of time, and I'm just happy that he gets to have his name and his legacy cemented in Mets history in that way.
To be honest, I don't know if any other fans feel this way or if I'm just being nostalgic. It does actually make whatever happens this offseason, since he's certainly going to opt out of this deal and the Mets are going to have to work it out again, it makes that all a little more important to me. If he is the Mets' all-time home run leader, it does matter to me a little more if he finishes out his career as a Met or not.
We'll probably do an entire episode about this at some point, but do you think he should be a Met for life?
I don't know. I mean, obviously he's on a tear, right? It's been sort of like the redemption Pete tour of a lifetime these first few months because the offseason was a mess. Nobody wanted him. It was like that was a real disaster for a few months there. It seemed like his own team and the Mets didn't even want him until they finally re-signed him. I think he's going to want his big deal after this season. That's not rocket science. He wanted it last year and he sort of settled for what he got. So he's going to want his big deal. I don't know if the Mets are going to give it to him. I don't know what the market's going to look like, right? You think about Vladdy, the Blue Jays locked him up. I don't know what the market is going to look like for a power-hitting, aging, let's face it, first baseman. So we'll see. I think the Mets, all I will say at this time is I think the Mets are certainly going to be under more pressure to get it done with him because I think 75% of fans probably feel like what I just said is if he's your all-time home run leader, like that means something to me.
And it's funny that you say 75% of fans because in my mind, I was thinking that absolutely the fans are going to want him back, at least most of them. Yeah. And I'm going to say it. I truly and honestly believe that Steve Cohen wants to hear about what the fans think.
I do too.
I think he's that kind of owner. And
I think now you're seeing this core of Lindor, Alonso, Soto really shape up. Really, whose business would Steve Cohen have ripping out 1/3 of that core?
I totally agree. And I know that both of us have gone back and forth as far as who should they keep, who should they not keep. The reality of the situation is the Mets have this really amazing culture right now, and it's made up of a lot of guys who you wish and hope that they can hold on to.
Yeah.
They're just not going to be able to hold on to everyone. Yeah. Things are going to change inevitably. There are going to be some guys who you need to get rid of. But Pete Alonso, to me, just feels like one of those guys that I think is worth fighting for, where other people I'd be okay to give up on.
I think that Alonso is, and I know people are going to point out if you listen to this podcast every week, we weren't necessarily saying the same sentiment in the offseason because I still am not interested in overpaying heavily, right? But Steve Cohen isn't either. And he's shown that many a time, aside from Soto.
Right.
He's shown that with other deals and even the Pete thing the first time, right? Is he's not interested in David Stearns certainly loves a bargain. They're not interested in being stupid with their money. I hope and pray that the Mets and Alonso can work out something that makes sense for everybody. So we don't have to go through the same debacle that we went through last offseason with Scott Boras and the whole 9 yards. Pete is going to want as much money as he can get. I actually think it'll be interesting to see if he does give the Mets like the value, like the first crack at it, essentially.
I think he will. For a few reasons, but chief among them, I think he loves being in New York.
Yeah.
I think his wife loves being in New York, and they are about to have a kid.
Right.
Like, they need to think about things outside of baseball.
And I think if you're Pete Alonso, you need to think about, now you're the Mets, we're presuming things, but in 10 home runs, you're the Mets all-time home run leader. Like, that, you have a chance to write a legacy here. That if you just go and play the next 8 years of your career, finish out somewhere else, sure, you'd be great there too, and it would be like half and half. It just wouldn't be the same if you played your entire career for one team. I think David Wright is a great example of that, right? Maybe even Pete Alonso, when it's all said and done, has better stats than David Wright ever did. But people love David Wright because he was the captain of the team, which I don't think Alonso will become for the record, and he played his whole career in a Mets jersey. And that means something to fans. Loyalty does mean something, whether people like it or not.
It absolutely does, and I think that with the way that things are right now in baseball, that tends to be a rarity. Juan Soto even, you know, but like he'll be with the Mets now. But again, he hopped to a couple different teams, whatnot. I think that if you're able to start and finish your career in the same place, you're right. It is, people will view you differently forever. You will have cemented your legacy in a different way. Plus, you'll just be able to, quite honestly, eclipse more, you know, you'll be able to have more awards, I think, and be able to eclipse more milestones because you're already halfway there with the Mets, you know? I think he'd want to stay.
I think Alonso at this point is synonymous with the Mets, and I think if, you know, he goes to, I don't know, pick your team. If he goes anywhere, if he goes to the Braves or if he goes to the Phillies, it's just not the same. Sometimes you see it, right? Like Bryce Harper is a perfect example. A guy who you thought might be a National for life and who was synonymous with the Nationals. Now he's going to end his career and people are always going to think of him as a Philly.
Yep.
So it can go both ways. I think some of it will come down to what Pete wants to do.
I cannot imagine a situation where people think about Alonso as not a Met, as anything other than a Met. And honestly, the other thing is, I also think that it must be really hard just from an emotional standpoint to play for the Mets and then have to play for any other team that is not a New York team.
Yeah.
Like playing New York baseball is absolutely big time. But once you're used to that pressure, it's got to be a really weird feeling to be playing in a smaller market.
I agree with
I don't
that.
think he'd like that as much.
I agree with that completely. Not to mention, we're talking about like the emotional legacy side of things. The other question is, after what they've seen, I know it's only been a few months, so we'll have to see where he finishes the season. But the tear that he's on and how it's all working in the lineup right now, can the Mets even afford to let him walk? Because like I just said, breaking up that core, I think right now you answer that question, no, right? He has been protecting Soto. Was this whole thing, oh, Soto doesn't have Aaron Judge anymore. Is he going to be protected in the lineup? Pete has been protecting Juan Soto in the lineup as good as anybody.
A whole bodyguard.
A whole bodyguard. Pete's season stats right now, we've been talking about some of the stats. He's hitting .301, which is crazy. He's never hit for average. Like, I should just point that out. 17 home runs, a .990 OPS. He has 61 RBI. He leads baseball in RBI. It is June 9th, and Pete Alonso has 61 RBI, which brings me to my next point, because this was the craziest thing I've ever seen. This stat is what really sent me over the Pete Alonso edge.
Yep.
Anthony DiComo put out this week that the Mets record for RBI in a calendar month is 34. That was set by Gary Carter in September of 1985. If you all remember, let us know in the comments. Pete Alonso is on pace for 61 RBI just this June. I mean, that is cracked out. It's blacked out. He's probably not going to get to 61, right? 15 in a week is not really a sustainable pace. But if he's at 18 and it's June 9th, it's certainly seeming like we're going to eclipse 34.
18 so far this month. I mean, he will, I believe, absolutely break that record.
That's crazy.
That
to
is
me.
Astonishing.
It's a record that stood for a long time. Think about the great seasons in Mets history of David Wright and Jose Reyes and Beltran and everybody who's played here since 1985.
I think sometimes you need to just sit down, appreciate and understand when you're witnessing greatness, even if it's just in a moment. And this is a moment in time that I think people will remember.
We're having a moment with Pete Alonso.
We're just having an Alonso moment, an Alonso love fest, you might even say.
All you can ask for are moments.
Right? Speaking of, also we have a Lindor situation to discuss. He is really something remarkable, isn't he?
Yeah.
He had a broken toe after being hit by a pitch in the first inning on June 4th. So he missed approximately one game. And it said they were like, he's going to be day to day. I need people to understand something before I get into this. I get it. It's a broken toe. So some people, it's just a toe. Like, that really hurts.
Yeah.
Like, the normal average person is not okay to do something athletic after sitting out for one day when your toe is broken.
Because it hurts to walk. And he's
not
out
normal.
here. Lindor was out here stealing bases. I said to someone at some point this weekend, like, now he's just being obnoxious in the best way possible. He's out here running on a broken toe.
Like, okay, but it's also so him. Not going on the IL as of now. It's all about pain tolerance. That it's so typical Lindor. And honestly, curious what you think about this. Some people say that that's selfish because he should be resting so that he is fully healed. And then other people are like, no, that's awesome and it's cool that he's out there and he's managing the pain. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic because he's continuing to hit, and he won the game when he came in and he had that pinch run. What was it, 2-run double? And if he was out there going 0 for 5 and limping around, then I'd have a different opinion. But if you can go out there and you can continue to, be the player that you are, even on that broken toe, then F yeah, I think you're the greatest.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Lindor is our hero, as always. What else is new? Hope his toe heals quickly.
But again, that is just one very small example of why I think he needs to be the captain. And as you smartly said, weeks or months ago, it should happen when the David Wright retirement ceremony is going on.
I am waiting.
Sometimes we just need to look around, see if something passes the eye test, and then when it does with flying colors, we need to do the right damn thing, right?
Yeah, and that is next month, by the way, July, the whole David Wright thing. If you don't all understand what it would mean to me if Francisco Lindor was named captain of the Mets next month, that would really, and you know what? I saw a Pete Alonso quote. We're really high on Pete Alonso right now. I know this is surprising because he's hitting well. I saw an Alonso quote.
No, we
this
just
week.
like his personality. We do like his personality.
Sparkling personality from Petey. I saw an Alonso quote this week on Lindor, on the broken toe, and I don't have it here, but it basically was like, yeah, that's what he does. That's what essentially captains do. I almost feel like other players on the Mets and other important figures, such as Alonso, are hinting and alluding to things, but that's just me. Maybe it's wishful thinking. I don't know.
That's okay. We're allowed to have some conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
and I really do think that the other players on the Mets, Juan Soto included, want Francisco Lindor to be the captain and think he should be. I really believe that.
I think if you had a vote, it'd be unanimous.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
I
just
think
me.
so too.
Although maybe Jeff McNeil, they got in the fight about the raccoon once, but I feel like they've moved that out. They've worked that out. Raccoon.
I'm sure that they worked that out. That's so funny. The rotation. We wanted to take one more beat on that. I know we did discuss it last week, but they are really continuing to just chef it up. I mean, damn. Senga is obviously at the forefront of it. But check out this little Steve Gelb stat. How good has the Mets starting pitching been this year? In 58 of their 66 games, Mets starters have allowed 3 earned runs or fewer. Only once has a starter given up more than 4 earned runs in a game all year. It was Blade Tidwell in his spot start in St. Louis. I honestly feel like that shouldn't even count. I know
He's
it
like
has
a triple
to.
A, I know.
But like, that is crazy.
That means the bullpen has had a couple of meltdowns, few and far between in comparison to the past, but a couple of meltdowns. That means that, I mean, that is a crazy stat. One time the starter has given up more than 4 runs in a game. The Mets really, aside from a few instances, haven't really been losing games this year because things were, off to a bad start because of the starter. That's remarkable. The Mets starting rotation is putting them in a position to win the game every single night.
I was going to say, like, no wonder they haven't been trailing a lot.
Yeah.
It's partially because of this, you know? It's been absolutely amazing. I do see on a little bullet here that Ashley has Devil's Advocate written down.
We should make that a segment. Ashley playing Devil's Advocate.
Honestly, I really like that.
Yeah, we'll give it a funny name.
I like that name. Ashley plays Devil's Advocate.
Okay, well,
That's good.
the first installment of Ashley playing Devil's Advocate, I got to thinking today.
I bet you did.
I got to thinking.
One thing about Ashley, she thinks.
Sometimes on Mondays when I'm putting these notes together, I have a little too much time to think.
This girl thinks some thoughts, and I wish you guys could see it, but the way that we have our 2 offices set up,
mine's a closet.
It's pretty much a closet, and it's sort of dark in there, and the lighting's not great, and I just feel like all those things really help to fuel you in a certain kind of mischievous way.
It's kind of my cave. It's ominous. You don't know what goes on in there, and you probably don't want to know.
No, sometimes someone will come down, because my office, if you walk in through the door, you can see me and you can't see her.
Yeah.
But it's like you can feel her presence, and I feel like sometimes someone will be like, "Is Ashley back there?" And she's like, "Hi."
Lurking.
She is a lurker.
Okay, anyway, so the first installment of my Devil's Advocate section is that all of this is so nice. Now, the first question you would ask yourself is about the starting rotation for the Mets, right? Like best ERA in baseball, the whole works. Does it seem sustainable? Well, the signs there are not entirely positive. So Senga, for instance, pitched 4 times last year. He was pretty much on the IL the whole season. So what does his innings limit look like eventually at the end of the season? How does he get through? We saw this with the Mets starting pitchers last year. If you are pitching into October and possibly the first week of November, how are we getting all these pitchers all the way there? Not to mention, our local reliever turned starter, Clay Holmes, is already nearing his innings total from last year, which was 70.
That's crazy.
Not feeling good about that. Not to mention McGill, Canning, they've been decent this month. They've showed a few, they've come back down to earth from the holy level that they were at. And now someone in our comments is going to say, oh, but there's reinforcements on the way in the form of Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas. And that is nice. I will agree. For a rotation that, right, you're worried about, I guess, the depth and the stamina that they're going to have. The fact that they have 2 of their 5 projected opening day starters on their way back that haven't thrown a pitch this year, that's good news. Sean Manaea, definitely. However, there's a but. Frankie Montas, we saw it in our backyard this week. We were both actually lucky enough to witness one of the starts in person.
Were we lucky?
God awful. Frankie Montas has been rehabbing in Syracuse against the Buffalo Bisons. I'm going to lay out some stats for you against the Bisons, okay? Frankie Montas in his first start, the game we were at, 4 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 8 hits, 3 strikeouts, 1 walk. He gave up 4 home runs. Help.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. The best part of that game for me, not the baseball. Like, I'm going to go, free vouchers that the Syracuse Mets give me that work at most stands and you can buy food or drinks with.
Yep.
Ashley getting that new Syracuse Mets hat. That's behind her.
Beautiful,
merch that they gave us. Thank you, Syracuse Mets.
They're always giving us things, the most generous, the greatest.
Other things, and then watching Frankie Montas pitch. And honestly, everyone else in that ballpark was truly like, They're like moans and groans. Like, people are not pleased with that.
Love to go out to the Syracuse Mets. It's a great experience here in good old Syracuse, New York. Did not love the Frankie Montas experience of a few days ago. And then he followed it up with last night, Sunday night. He was just as bad. He gave up another 4 runs in 3 2/3 innings. So I know it's rehab starting. Not Carlos Mendoza. So sorry. Dick Scott, the AAA manager, not Carlos Mendoza. I spoke to him after the first start. We did like press media stuff with him, and the press and the media, by the way, is just me. There's no one else. Like,
I love the press and the media. It's not what you see in the movies.
No, it's just me with a microphone and a camera and a dream, and nobody else is there. And me and Dick Scott are talking in essentially a glorified.
Right.
It's a conference room.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
It's me in the seats, not working, and Ashley, a 5'3" individual, holding the camera and the mic after being fed free food by the Syracuse Mets.
Yeah, but it is a great work night experience because like they give me dinner. The guy comes out of the store. He's like, "Here you go. Here's this hat."
Awesome.
Like, we get recognized by 5 million people, which is just weird because we don't honestly get that a lot in our life. But the Syracuse Mets really evoke something. So it's like a constant flow of people being like, "Aren't you on the news?" And
Wait,
I'm like,
and it was Bark at the Park night.
Oh, it was Bark at the Park. There. Oh my God. There was sorry, I'm really off on this tangent. There was the cutest little Chihuahua. Let me tell the story. But it had a Mets sweater on, a Syracuse Mets sweater. And I was like, oh my God, I was trying to get video of the dogs for the newscast. I was like, can I take a video of your dog?
First of all, too hot for
I'm
that.
taking pictures of it. I'm like, this is the cutest, tiniest dog. And I don't know, like there was just too much going on. I didn't realize until after the fact that the dog had 3 legs.
It was that dog, right?
So
I saw that.
I know, but I just didn't compute that there was only 3 legs. So I sent it to like 2 people and they were like, that dog is disabled. Like the lady was probably like, I was like, hey, like, can I take a close-up of your dog, like, for the newscast? And she was probably like, are we exploiting my 3-legged dog?
Right.
I didn't realize there were only 3.
I did see that dog. And actually, because before you saw all the other dogs, it felt like you were really going in on that dog with the 3 legs. And I was like, that dog's going to get a whole lot of airtime in Syracuse, New York.
And it did. And I hope it felt appreciated.
I hope so, too.
We don't discriminate. I just want to say that I did not realize that it had 3 legs, and I didn't mean it that way.
I completely understand, and I think everybody else does. So sorry. Anyway, I think we should cut this segment. Like, what are you going to title it?
3-legged dog. Okay. All right. Anyway, Frankie Montas sucks. All in all, I hope he turns it around. Oh, that's what I was saying. Wait, no, I have to connect it here because I did actually have a thought.
Oh my God! Don't say 3 legs again.
No. In the conference room for the media availability of just me, it was private with Dick Scott of the Syracuse Mets, who's a exclusive. All right. The media availability. He is a great guy, by the way. I'm not. He's fantastic. I love him. He said that it's essentially like me trying to say this in a serious tone of voice while the laugh tears are coming out. It's essentially like Montas is like on his 2nd spring training start. Mm-hmm. So when you put it in that context, things seem less catastrophic. All I have to say to my eyeballs in Syracuse, New York, watching Frankie Montas give up 9,000 runs to the Buffalo Bisons is not inspiring.
What do you have against Buffalo, man? Like you are being discriminatory against that.
But it's just something about like the Buffalo Bisons. It's like a cartoon team.
Yeah, it totally has that feel to
Bisons.
it. No, all of that, like I'm not gonna get all into this, but you guys, even like the Syracuse mascot, it is a really just unserious event.
Minor league baseball is fantastic.
It is amazing. It is truly an amazing experience. I'm so happy that it exists.
All right, anyway. Moving on.
Ronny
Mauricio.
Because I was gonna say I got smoked by you guys the last time for saying that wrong, so I am sorry for that. Mauricio, in 5 games in the show so far, wait, she's not a crier except for when she's laughing.
Yeah,
like it's true, like she doesn't cry over sad things.
Not a sad crier.
Ice Queen, but like when it comes to laughing, she's crying.
The tears come out,
and you never know when it's gonna happen. It's truly remarkable.
It can be a little alarming.
I haven't seen that many people like you who like it kind of happens at the same time. Mm-hmm. Very, very unique. That's a very niche thing about you.
Thank you.
It is completely involuntary. I've seen it happen many a time. Okay, in his 5 games in the show so far, 21 plate appearances. He has a .263 batting average. And he has 2 extra base hits, 4 runs, 1 RBI, 2 walks, 2 stolen bases, 5 strikeouts. He hit his first home run of the season, a bomb, a blast, 456 feet. I think that honestly, even the, like Syracuse Mets play-by-play broadcasters, if you got on a call with them right now, would tell you that's something he's known for, is his power. And I'm really, really happy and thrilled for him that everybody else was able to see that.
Yeah, Ronnie's been killing it. Obviously, he should start every day until Vientos comes back from his injury. That's just sort of a no-brainer. And even then, I feel like you have to find a spot for him on this team as of right now. Maybe he'll slow down and he'll fall into the Brett Beatty potholes, and then we'll be in a different situation. But Mauricio's an interesting character in the Mets organization because some of the things that we do down here, such as talking to the Syracuse Mets manager and their broadcasters and all that, you get a better scope for the organization as a whole. Mauricio's a guy that they've been talking about here for years and years, right? Because he was in Syracuse here in 2023. Then he had to rehab from the injury, the second injury, the whole 9 yards. He's sort of been this elusive figure, even to Mets fans. They know he's a great prospect, but they don't know if he's ever going to come up, if it's ever going to pan out. So to see it now, even on a really small sample size, has been fantastic, and I only hope that keeps going because the Mets can use all the depth that they can get in that area, right? It's we've even sat here and been oh my God, they have an influx of infielders. What are they going to do? Acuna, Beatty, McNeil. Now you have Mauricio in the fold, but all of a sudden, Vientos out for a couple weeks.
Yep. And I will say, with Mauricio, that's the kind of guy where don't count him out. I know it's been sort of a long, windy journey. He's had to have a little endurance and patience with this. But he is somebody who I really think could be one of those stars on the rise. You just have to see how things play out. And you are right to say, with the influx of infielders, I'm not sure exactly where it's all going to shake out.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that he got his opportunity for now. I'm sure he is too.
And I will say, in terms of a roster spot, when Jose Siri or Jesse Winker come back, neither of those guys infielders, but going to take up a roster spot when they come back from injury, it'll be interesting to see what the Mets do. I think at that point, it's probably Mauricio, how's he doing, versus Luis Angel Acuna. And if Mauricio's shown that he can run, which has been one of Acuna's best attributes, then you got maybe a situation on your hands.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Good problem to have.
Good problem
I'll take it. Last but not least, we're going to do a little rewind to the Dodgers series. The Mets split. They went 2-2 in LA. We couldn't update you earlier.
So
you guys know why. We wish we could. But, come playoffs and whatnot, we ramp it up.
We'll lock in.
As we always do. Listen, they should have won 3 games.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it. That one loss where they blew it because of a couple things, including a Brett Beatty infield error catastrophe.
Disaster class.
Truly a disaster class, which, by the way, he took accountability for. That rocked. We love that, and a lot of the Mets players do that. But damn, that was one of the most, I would say, painful losses of the year.
Yeah.
Because it was really, I don't remember exactly where it went awry, but it was maybe 7 innings or something like that of really great baseball. And it just goes to show that anything can happen in a freaking baseball game, because it was just, I don't know if it was a couple of strokes of luck for the Dodgers. I don't know if they just simply outplay them. I think that the Mets just made mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that the Mets beat themselves, and they absolutely should have won that game. You haven't had a lot of games like that this year for the Mets. That's kind of their MO.
Yeah.
They lose the games they should be winning. Not this year. This was that game, though.
Yeah, it was a Mets gonna bet. It was sloppy. Mendoza said afterwards, we gave that one away. This is the last game in LA we're talking about. But I think, obviously, right, you can fixate on that game. I think it was such fantastic, entertaining baseball between these two teams.
Totally agree.
For 7 games in the regular season, 4 games in that series, definitely. I mean, they went to extras how many times? It's if you don't love watching Mets versus Dodgers, you don't love baseball at that point. I don't even care who you're a fan of. If you're a Yankee fan, a Red Sox fan, that's not my business. It's just great baseball. And I think if you're a Mets fan, you have a good takeaway, right? The Mets outplayed the Dodgers over those 7 games. Obviously, they win the season series. They split the series in LA, but they won the first 2 out of 3 at Citi Field. So they won 4 games. The Dodgers won 3 games in the regular season set. And I think you escape from it as a Mets fan feeling like they've closed that gap that seemed so cavernous last year in the NLCS. Maybe other people don't feel this way, and I'm just speaking for myself, but my takeaways were that a lot of the pitfalls that the Mets had in comparison to the Dodgers in 2024 related to the Mets not having the horses to run with the starting pitching. We saw the pitching get tired and fall apart in the playoffs. They'll have to avoid that again this year. But I'm just saying, comprehensively as a whole, the starting pitching has really improved for the Mets, kept them in these games more, and I think just increased depth all around for the Mets has looked better. Now, I know where all the Dodgers are going to say that half their pitchers are out now hurt, and I understand that too.
And that's true.
And that'll be a factor in the fall if they all come back healthy.
Yeah.
But I think you have a really positive takeaway from that series if you're a Mets fan.
I think the other positive takeaway when you think about the playoffs in last year and what do you need to overcome, you have to overcome Ohtani.
Yeah.
Just as a person and a player. That is just one factor just on its own. And they held Ohtani at bay. They did a really good job with Ohtani, which just makes you feel good about the future. Against the Mets this season, Shohei Ohtani is batting .208. Against the rest of the league, his batting average is .301. That's significant.
Significant. Yeah, the Mets did a really good job with Ohtani. It was actually Dave Roberts, the Dodgers manager, who I think had the best take on it. He said, I think the Mets, really not throwing fastballs in the hitting zone. If something is in the strike zone, it's spin or change up, and they're changing a lot of locations. They're going in, crowding him, going away. They're just not repeating a lot. That's what I saw from the Mets pitchers. They were mixing it up. When a ball was in the zone, it was an off-speed pitch. There were no fastballs to Shohei Ohtani anywhere near where he could hit them. And honestly, I think that's how the entirety of baseball should throw to him.
Like, why would you even risk it?
Yeah.
I don't understand why you would even give that a chance. Truthfully, I agree. I think that to change things up with Ohtani is pretty much the best thing you can do to limit the damage. There's still going to be damage, honestly. He really, I have to say, there were even some at-bats where I'm seeing he's getting hits, and it's balls that really shouldn't be hit. Like, they're either way low or whatever. I feel like he can kind of hit anything, but I feel like at least in mixing it up and giving him a little bit of variety, it probably makes it a little bit tougher as a hitter. There's definitely a little strategy in a long game that has to be played with him. So good job by the Mets on that. It also means that the Mets have clinched the season series over the Dodgers. So if the two teams end up having the same record at the end of the season and were to meet again in the postseason, the Mets would get the home field advantage. Again, that's, a rare scenario, but it's just something worth thinking about.
And it's intricate because I saw some discourse over this. They literally have to have the same record at the end of the year, and they would obviously have to meet in the postseason, and it's only if both of them win the division. If the Mets get the wild card, or the Dodgers get the wild card, but if the Mets get the wild card, that doesn't apply. So if both of them win the NL West and the NL East, they meet and they finish the year with the same record, which is probably not going to happen, then the Mets would get home field advantage. But it's still nice to know that you have that in your pocket. And honestly, more than anything, it's nice to know, like, the Mets went out there and they had fun. The Mets walked into the stadium that ended their season last year. They're out there flipping the bottles on the top of the dugout. Soto's doing the shuffle. It was good to see them have some fun in LA. That healed a few demons for me.
I completely understand, and I think that's good. It makes me feel good to know that they feel comfortable there. Yeah. So that come playoff time and come postseason, it's going to be, I hope, a good feeling that they have going into a matchup against the Dodgers, which I hope happens.
And I know the Dodgers aren't at full strength. Just want to say it again for all of you.
We do all see that and recognize that, so we'll see you when you're back at full strength, y'all.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Last but not least.
Actually last.
Down on the farm, Sproat stock. Ashley has a message for you on that.
Yeah, Brandon Sproat, obviously he was the Mets' #1 prospect for a while. People have been waiting for him to make his MLB debut. He is not doing well to start this year. We saw him get promoted to AAA last year, not too well at the end of the season, but Keith Law, who's a baseball writer for The Athletic, listed him this week among his top 3 prospects in baseball whose stock has plummeted. He has a 6.22 ERA in 11 starts at Syracuse. In this Athletic article, Law said that his biggest issue is lefties hitting .333 against him, largely because his changeup is, quote, too firm and he leaves it up too often. Someone who's not having that problem is Nolan McLean, who's really been excelling at the AAA level. They promoted him earlier this season. He has a 2.63 ERA in 27 innings pitched. A scout says his sweeper is the difference, and he dominates right-handed hitters in a way that Sproat just has not been, and Tidwell has not either. So it'll be a little interesting to see what shakes out if the Mets do end up needing pitching help at the end of the year. Do they turn to someone like Nolan McLean or over maybe a Sproat or a Tidwell? We'll see.
I would love something a little raunchy like that in the postseason. I would love a little scandalous thing we haven't seen. Someone gets pulled up, a little hero, you know, who maybe people didn't expect. So we'll see what ends up happening. Thank you, as always, you guys, for sticking with us. We really appreciate all of your support, and we will see you back here when the next big thing happens. Thanks for joining us.